Alright, everybody, we are here for the final race in our first season. Race number 8, we're at Zolder. Zolder was supposed to be race number 4, but because of a server issue, it was postponed till the end of the season. So this race is going to determine who our champion will be. And we're going to run down the standings real quick. Currently, David Macedo is leading with 109 points. Just 2 points behind him is Mike Doherty with 107 points. Third place is Jon Snow with 103 points. Fourth place is Andre Marchishин. He's kind of the long shot guy with 91 points. So it's a four-way battle, but some pretty drastic things would have to happen for Andre to win it all, because he is behind by about 18 points. So it would have to be pretty drastic for him to win it, if it's even mathematically possible. I'm not 100% sure he could pull it off, because even if these guys, all three, well, if they all three finished outside of the points, Andre could still win it. So that is an option, but it's basically a battle between David Macedo, Mike Doherty, and Jon Snow. That's your top three right there in the points. So as you can see, Jon Snow qualified on pole for this race. Andre, who is the dark horse, is in second. Alex Moda is in third. David Macedo, who is leading the championship, starts in fourth. Jesse Albert starts in fifth. And Mike Doherty starts in sixth. So he is in second place in the championship right now. Pedro Perez is going to start in seventh. Kyle Macedo in eighth. Eric Tong in ninth. Nick Driveman in 10th. Evan Miller in 11th. Ken North in 12th. And Joe Marsiglia is going to pull up the rear in 13th. So that's our starting order. As always, we're running a 1-hour race with a 20-minute pit window in the middle. It is mandatory that every driver pits within that 20-minute window. They do not have to take tires. They do not have to take fuel, but they do have to pit. So we've seen a lot of different strategy plays. We've seen some work out. We've seen some not work out. We've seen guys take tires and beat guys who got way out ahead because they didn't take tires, but we've also seen the guys who didn't take tires kind of dominate and end up out front at the end of the race. So in a race like this, an hour-long race, the fast guys typically find their way to the front, and the guys who are a little slower typically find their way to the back. But sometimes guys make mistakes, and despite having a ton of speed, we saw that last week with Jon Snow. He was leading the race and looked to have everything pretty much under control, and he got a penalty on pit lane, which cost him a possible victory last week. So all it takes is a small mistake, and speaking of mistakes, we've had quite a bit of them on this track, mostly involving that first chicane. It is very treacherous. The drivers have continued to jump over the curbing despite many incidents happening there. Some of these guys have wiped out there a couple different times throughout the week or more, and they continue to do that. So we're going to see if they can survive a whole hour-long race jumping the curbs there on that first chicane, or who maybe decides to take it a little easier on the curbs. So we'll see what the different strategies are for these guys here. You see we've got guys starting to form up a little bit. We're coming down towards the last chicane, and then we're going to be on to the front stretch where the race is going to start. So they're getting formed up. John and Andre leading them down the track here. We're going to switch to the overhead camera to get the best look possible. These guys have done a really good job of having clean starts so far, so we'll see if they can do that once again. And there's the green flag, so they're off racing. Andre gets a good jump, looks like, but John has the inside. You see Alex Mota and David Macedo side by side. Jesse moving up there. Jesse started all the way back in 5th. Oh, and Andre runs wide in the second turn. So did Alex Mota. That's going to hurt both of those guys. All right, let's switch to the other camera here. So you see Jesse all the way up into 3rd already. He started 5th, so he got a great start. Andre falls back. He's fighting it out with Mike Doherty. They're side by side into the first chicane. Doherty lets him take the position just to survive the chicane. You see Mota in close quarters with Pedro Perez. You see somebody off the track there. That's Kyle Macedo. See what happened to him. He was right behind Mike Doherty coming over the hill here. Comes down to the inside. Gets off the track a little bit and just can't stop in the braking zone. Ends up cutting the track. That's going to cost him a couple of positions. And we've got good battles going on all through the field here. We're looking at Mike Doherty followed by Mota, Kyle Macedo, Pedro Perez, Eric Tong, Evan Miller, Nick Driveman right behind them. Let's jump back here with Driveman for a second if the camera will catch up with us. You see Driveman there, Ken North behind him, and Joe Marsiglia pulling up the rear. So let's get back up to the front. David Macedo running in 2nd behind John Snow. John's starting to gap him a little bit, even though we're only on the 2nd lap right now. Little bit of space for John Snow. John has been really fast here and really consistent. And Jesse has been blazing fast. He's probably the fastest guy on the track. Wasn't quite able to pull off the hot lap during qualifying, but as far as pace, he's had incredible pace here. So we'll see what he can do over the course of this long race. You see Marchician back there, followed by Doherty, and then Alex Mota, then Kyle Macedo, Pedro Perez. See David run a little bit wide there. Able to keep speed through that section though. David showed a lot of speed here, especially the day of today's race. During practice and qualifying, he was really quick. Able to qualify 3rd, I believe, which put him in good position to take 2nd whenever Andre made that mistake and ended up off the track for a moment there. Alright, let's take a look back here. We got Kyle Macedo followed closely by Pedro Perez. Pedro has shown really good pace at this track. He's been really competitive here. He's just getting better every single week and really showing what he can do as a driver. Eric Tong currently running in 8th in front of Evan Miller. Nick Driveman behind him. Ken North just behind that. And you see Alex Mota. Mota is all the way back here with these guys. What happened to Alex? Let's go back and see how he ended up at the back of the pack. Well, he's already there. Something. Oh, no. So Alex, right behind Mike Doherty right here in 6th place, ends up in the wall going through that first chicane. That has just been the Achilles heel for these guys, that part of the track right there. You see some of the guys are opting to avoid the bumpers completely and just snake it through there. I know at this point, if I were a driver, that would be my game plan. Just stay off the bumpers completely, because they've caused nothing but trouble this whole week for people trying to run around this track. So you see the battles still going on all through the pack here. Jesse, David's doing a good job of holding Jesse at bay right now, because Jesse is really quick here. But David doing a great job holding his position in 2nd. Looked like he had a little bit of an issue coming over the hill in the final turn there. And then we got Marchishin, who's got a little bit of a gap on Mike Doherty at this point. And then Kyle Macedo followed closely by Pedro. Let's take a look on board with Pedro. And the camera view's not right. There's Pedro. Nice and smooth through there. Doing a good job. Let's move up through the field. So we got Doherty looking at Marchishin here. We know Mike, we call him Old Faithful. He's in the hunt for the championship. He's just got to finish as strong as he can, possibly win this race to be able to win the championship. It's going to be quite a fight between these guys. Very interesting to see how this all plays out. Meanwhile, Marchishin's a little bit behind Albert, but Albert has now caught up to, well, he had caught up to David Macedo, was right on him there for a second. A little bit of trouble through that last chicane. He falls back again. And we've seen this before where John kind of checks out as guys battle behind him. So these guys have got to keep pace if they want to have any chance of beating John, because he is a very consistent and rhythmic driver. This kind of track does really well for the kind of driving style that John has. Let's take a look at these guys coming down to that first chicane. You see John, he's not touching the bumpers at all. He's avoiding them completely. Probably a good move. You see Andre just send it over the bumper right there. Lucky to hold on to it. Car completely airborne. These guys are certainly not afraid. I'll give them that. They have attacked those curbs every practice during the week and in qualifying and in the practice races on Friday. The boldness has not wavered at all. These guys have taken it to the limit, and some of them have paid pretty dearly for it. You see Doherty there starting to get close to Marchishin. He's caught up to Andre. Maybe Andre lost some time going over that curb in the first chicane. That's going to let Mike close in on him a little bit. And you see Kyle back here. He is still dealing with Pedro. He's got a little bit of a gap to Pedro now. So Kyle has had good pace here at times, but he's not been able to consistently put down those fast laps like some of the guys in the very front. But it's a long race. There's a lot of time to make up for pace, and he's very fast in that McLaren. He's shown that all season long. So we'll see what he can do. See these guys coming down here. See a few of the guys. You saw Andre avoid the curbs that time. He maybe learned his lesson after going airborne last time. So coming through the second chicane here. John looking strong. He's got the lead up to 2.6 seconds. So he's running a really nice race so far. These guys are all really fast here. It's not like they're slow and that's why John's pulling out that gap. The reason that he's pulling that gap is because he is very fast. We've seen John dominate in certain races throughout the season. He's been, him and Mike Doherty, it's John Snow and Mike Doherty have been our most consistent drivers, the kind of guys that can lap after lap after lap turn out the same laps. And David Macedo doesn't get the same credit. Maybe that's my fault. He doesn't get the same credit as those other guys. But we've seen David in the front all season long, and that's why he's in the hunt for the championship right now, because he has finished in the front in every race just about. So, we give these guys a lot of props for being consistent, but I think David deserves that same respect because he is consistently in the front in every race. Even at tracks where he was really not very good early on in the week, by the end of the week, he's figured it out, and he's got himself in the hunt. Oh, as you see Mike Doherty go around right there, that is going to hurt Doherty's chances for the championship right there, because that's going to cost him a lot of time. He was already running in 5th place. Let's take a look at it again. Goes over misses the first curve, but hits the second curve and just loses the car. You see Kyle and Pedro go by there. So Doherty got to be upset about that, but there's still a lot of time left. We'll see what he can do. Let's go back here and take a look at, we've got Alex Moda right on the heels of Evan Miller, and I think these guys have been battling for a few minutes here. Good battle by them. This is the closest battle on the track right now, so we'll watch it here for a minute. Take a look on board with Alex. He is a really fast driver. Alex has been really, really good. He has struggled at this track only because of the first chicane. We saw that's where he had his problem a couple minutes ago. That's really the only issue he's had on this track, is with that first chicane. The Porsche seems to be very sensitive to the double jump that you do when you hit both curbs. The second curb seems to be the killer. We'll see what he can do with Evan here. Evan is really fast here too. He set some really fast laps throughout the week. So this might be a real fun battle to watch. You see Evan pulling a little bit of a gap on him right now, giving Alex everything he can handle. Now Alex, I think, is dealing with a little bit of damage on the Porsche because he made contact with the wall, but it's hard to say how much that affects the car. See him coming through here, missed the first curve and took the second one, got through there cleanly that time. Catches back up to him in that long braking zone right there. You see the Porsche is really good in those long braking zones, able to brake late and kind of outbrake the opponents. We've seen it ever since Alex joined us partway through the season. He's been able to outbrake people in positions like that in the Porsche, which is kind of a main feature of that car, the ability to really make some moves under braking. It lacks a little bit, as you can see right here on the long straights. You see the Audi pull away a little bit there. It's got a little more torque and horsepower off the line, but the Porsche is very quick through these long sweeping turns and very quick in the braking zones. So keep an eye on the times here. Jesse Albert has got the gap to Macedo down to 1 second. Let's take a look at that battle coming through the second chicane here. Jesse in the Lexus trying to hunt David down. Got a little loose there going through that chicane, and the gap has widened back out. You see John up ahead there. John is up to 3.7 seconds on David Macedo, so he's stretching his lead out a little bit here. John has really not had any challenge since the second or third turn of the race, where Andre ended up in the sand and kind of left John alone up there. He's kind of been able to run his race without any interruptions. So let's see. Let's get back through the pack here. We got Alex is still all over Evan Miller back here in the battle for 9th place. Trying to see if there's any other. We got Pedro still behind Kyle Macedo, but the gap has widened now. Pedro running in 6th. Pedro has been really consistent all season long. He was a very, very new driver when he joined us, and had just got his first sim rig and was very, very new, and so we've been kind of rooting for him all season long, and pretty soon we're not all going to be rooting for him anymore, because he's going to start beating some of the front guys, because he's really, really good. He's turned into one heck of a racing driver, so we've enjoyed watching that happen. Meanwhile, you see Albert has this gap cut back down. Looks like David is struggling for pace a little bit right now. Either that or Jesse is just really fast, because Jesse is caught back up to him again. And meanwhile, John continues to pull away from David. He's now got it to over 4 seconds to the leader. So Jesse and John, a little bit of a different pace here. These guys seem to be on a tier above everybody else when it comes to actual race pace. David doing a good job of just holding on to it for now. You know, the car changes as the tires wear, and as you get into these long runs, we know David is very good in the long runs, because he's usually one of the last guys to pit in the pit window, and he has gotten into a habit of not taking tires. He's been able to stretch one set of tires the entire race, and that just shows great consistency, and it shows a lot of patience. You have to be patient to run that long on old tires. So see Jesse catches back up to him in that first chicane there. Really close on him here coming into the second chicane. Going to try to get a run on him coming over this little hill right here. But David's quick through there, was able to gap him a little bit, coming down into the long braking zone here. See Jesse right back on him. And John Snow is he's making really good pace. He's now up to 4.5 seconds out in front. So you can see it. If you look, you can see John up ahead of these guys, and he's only getting further ahead. And Jesse is no doubt thinking, I got to figure out how to get past David so that I have a chance to try to catch John, because John, he can run away with this thing if these guys waste too much time. You see Jesse get a little loose there, manages to hold on to it. Coming through this high-speed part of the track right here. David nice and smooth through here. Jesse catches him a little bit on that right-hander. Now the long straight down to the braking zone for the first chicane. Gains on him a little bit in that braking zone. Seems to have a little bit of an advantage in the braking zones, those long braking zones. But David is very quick out of the corners. Able to gap him a lot of times on the corner exit, even though he's losing a little bit on corner entry. You see Jesse, he's right on him. Andre's coming along behind these guys. If they hold each other up too much, if David holds up Jesse, Andre may catch them both. See, Jesse looks to the inside there, but doesn't have the move. Now he's going to look to the outside. David kind of ends up off the track in the sand there, and Jesse's going to take the position. David getting in the slipstream, trying to stay right on him. So Jesse has had more pace. We're 11 laps into the race. He's had more pace arguably this whole time, at least most of the time, because he started in 5th and now he's running in 2nd. He's very, very fast around this track. He has been all week, so we kind of wondered where he would be. I'm surprised he didn't qualify in the front, because he showed so much speed throughout the week, but just wasn't able to get it on the books during qualifying. Had to start back in 5th. We're going to jump back real quick because Alex is still behind Evan Miller back here. Good battle between these guys. Evan's running a great race, doing a great job of making it hard for Alex. Moda, I think, has a little more speed. Alex is a pretty fast driver. He's one of our fastest drivers, but Evan, every time we've looked in on this battle, Evan is technically very sound, and his car is in the right place at the right time, makes him very, very hard to pass. You see Alex all over him through the second chicane there. Runs a little bit wide coming out of that chicane. Just trying to use every bit of track he can to try to get some speed, but Evan is really quick through here too. So we're going to keep an eye on this battle and see what happens. But we got to keep our eyes on the front too, because David has kept up with Jesse. You kind of thought Jesse might pull away once he finally got past him, but David is holding his own pretty good right now. We know David is really good on old tires, so as the tires continue to wear, that's kind of advantage for him. Jesse is really fast on fresh tires, but he doesn't usually take, or he always takes tires. He's a faster, more aggressive driver looking for more grip so that he can run those fast laps, and we'll see which strategy plays out the best if any of these guys don't take tires. See how that goes. Meanwhile, John has stretched the lead to 7 seconds. He is way out in front. And let's take a look at him real quick. You see him up here looking for the cars behind. Still can't see him all the way down this stretch. So that's a pretty significant lead he's got on these guys. 7.8, almost an 8-second lead. So John is starting to dominate here a little bit. Andre, you see him getting back into the picture, catching up to these guys. David's still doing a good job of keeping up with Jesse. Let's take a look back through the field. We got Kyle Macedo still followed by Pedro, about 0.6 seconds behind him. Pedro running in 6th. He is actually 6th in the points right now. So this is about where Pedro has been all season. He's in the 6th place in points. He's been middle, back half of the pack. Early in the season, more in the back half of the pack, and as the season went on, he slowly crept his way up through the field, and he's been consistently at every race and consistently through every race to the point where he scored enough points that he's 6th in the championship, this is his first ever sim racing championship of any kind. So that's really impressive from him, because we've had a really great group of guys all season long. So you see behind these guys, here's Mike Doherty, still recovering from that incident he had in the first chicane earlier. And he looks like he's making up ground on these guys. We'll keep an eye on the splits. He's got it down to 4.2 seconds right now. Behind him is Eric Tong. He is kind of in no man's land. He's 10 seconds behind Mike Doherty, and the next guy behind him is Evan Miller, who is, I think, about 5 seconds behind Eric Tong. So Eric's a little bit on his own right now. You see Evan has pulled a little bit of a gap on Alex Moda. So Moda's heading into the pits, so he's probably thinking, I got to repair this damage on this car. Plus, we know how fast he is on fresh tires, so Moda's going into the pits early. We're 14 laps into the race. Now we got Ken North. He's kind of all by himself right now. The next guy behind him is 15.8 seconds or more behind. And then we got Driveman and Joe Marsiglia. These guys are doing some battle back here at the back of the pack. You see Joe take the position there. Historically, Joe has been faster than Nick, but Joe didn't really get, I don't know if he even got a qualifying time put down during qualifying. Not sure how comfortable he is on this track. He's usually more towards the top 5 or 6 in the race, maybe even above that. But this week, this track combination, he seems to not quite have the pace he's had in weeks past. Now let's take a look back towards the front. So we got David Macedo still keeping up with Jesse Albert, so he's doing a better job behind Jesse Albert than he was in front of him. So Jesse, either that or Jesse had more pace when he was following somebody. I'm not sure which one it is, but these guys are still close proximity. Andre trying to catch up to these guys. He's done a lot of work to catch up to them to get this close. He's 1.9 seconds behind, so he's definitely closing that gap down, but it's just very, very slow process. He's slowly winding these guys in. Andre qualified second. He was very fast in qualifying, very fast in practice. So he's got the pace to be up towards the front. And even now, he's running in fourth place, so he's having a really good race. But he could be up in the front if it wasn't for that little bit of off track that he had. It wasn't even a bad incident or anything, just got his tires off the track for a moment. You see how small of a mistake, how much of a difference it can really make. And these guys are all kind of on a razor's edge throughout these races. So let's check on Moda, because he pitted, so he is behind these guys, but he's one lap down. So this is going to get a little bit confusing with all these guys pitting at different times. Meanwhile, Jon Snow still out front. We're 16 laps into the race. See when the split comes up how much. He's at an 8.08 second lead for Jon Snow. So Jesse has to make up 8 seconds. And then David Macedo is falling back a little bit off of Jesse Albert. So that gap has widened a little bit. And Andre is about the same distance, maybe a little bit further back than he was before. So these three have kind of spread out a little bit. That's going to make this kind of be all about pit strategy. So who's going to pit? What are they going to do? We'll keep an eye on them as they come by the pit lane to see who pits and who doesn't. The pit window is a 20-minute window, so these guys have a lot of options. They can either pit really early and try to, undercut everybody, or they can pit very late. We've seen both. So John is not going to pit. Let's take a look at Jesse Albert here. Lap number 17, he is not going to pit. David, we kind of knew he wasn't going to pit because he doesn't pit till the end of the pit window almost every race. He's very consistent with that. Here we come with Kyle. No pit from him. Pedro is coming into the pit, so Pedro's making his move a little earlier than the rest of these guys. He's got his own strategy. He's going to stick to it. Mike Doherty also not pitting. So these guys are going to stay out on the track. Let's take a look at what Eric does. Eric Tong's going to stay out. Evan Miller, the two Audis running close together. He's not going to pit. Neither is Ken. So these guys are all staying out for now. It's really interesting. Well, let's see if Joe does or not. Joe does not pit. Okay, let's get back to the leader. So John coming around. By the time we check everybody who's pitting, we're going to have to check the leader again if he's pitting, because he's almost back around. So 17 laps in the books. On the 18th lap, John, it seems to vary from race to race. He doesn't really have a set strategy. He doesn't, pit predominantly early or late. It just seems like he kind of goes off of what he's feeling in the moment. And every race seems to be a little different for him, versus somebody like David Macedo, who every single race, I think, the entire season, he has pitted late in the pit window. He likes to make those first set of tires stretch as long as possible, and it's a testament to how good he is at maintaining his tires, because a driver who's desperate for new tires is not going to stay out that long on the same set of tires, because it's going to be miserable. So, he's really good at managing his pace, managing his tires. You see him sliding through the turn there all the way around. Looked like a four-wheel drift for a second there. But he's able to keep good pace, didn't really lose any time. So we currently don't really have any close battles. We've got Alex Moda, who's close behind Kyle Macedo, but this is not for position. This is just Alex trying to make as much time as he can on fresh tires and a repaired car. And Kyle, he is currently shown in 5th place, and he's running his own pit strategy. Meanwhile, Doherty's behind these two, running in 6th place. So this isn't for position. You see the gap between Jesse Albert and David Macedo has grown pretty large now. David has fallen back to 5.1 seconds. Meanwhile, Jesse has cut the lead for John Snow down to 7.5 seconds. So John didn't pit again, neither did Jesse, neither did David. Andre is going to pit, so Andre comes in to the pits. Kyle does not. Moda already has. Let's see about Doherty. He does not. And then these guys are a little ways back here, so so we're seeing John. He's running a really great race. Jesse has cut the lead down to 7.6 seconds, so he's cut about 4/10 off the lead, but still a pretty good gap for John. You see him get a little bit of the curbing there, just a little bit, but he's mostly been avoiding the curbs through that section right there. During our pre-race drivers meeting, there was a lot of talk about that first chicane and how dangerous it had been for everybody all week long, and I kind of made the suggestion of, maybe just stay off the curbs. I know it's a crazy thought, but maybe just stay off them and try something different, because there were so many incidents during practice and during the practice races on Friday and the qualifying sessions. There were so many incidents in that spot that it just started to feel like, why is it worth it? What is the point of risking it just to gain a small amount of time jumping the curbs, So looks like some guys have decided. I think Doherty is also snaking it through there and not jumping the curbs, but some of these other guys are sticking with the plan, man. They're sending it right over the curb there and hoping for the best. So we see John. He's coming, about to head down the straight to that first chicane. Now this is significant here because that's Andre Marchishин. Andre is being shown in 11th place. You see Andre just absolutely send it over that curb again, and then John snakes it through behind him. This is not for position, but this is Andre trying to keep from going a lap down. So he is currently still on the lead lap after pitting, but if John gets past him, that will put him a lap down. We don't have a safety car, so that kind of doesn't matter as much as it does in the real world, where you have safety cars and certain guys get a free pass and certain guys don't. But it's still, as a driver, keeping from going down a lap is something you want to try to do. It just doesn't feel good to be down a lap. So, and you see John coming into the pits here, so this is the leader coming in. That's going to give Andre plenty of room to breathe. Jesse does not come in, so Jesse is going to inherit the lead of the race. David doesn't come in either. And Kyle, still dealing with Alex Moda, although they're not that close together, does not pit. And then Doherty does not pit either. So Jesse Albert takes over the lead of the race. Take a look at John here. He's doing so good in this race. Will he take tires or will he not? It's a really big question for this kind of a race. We've seen that play out so many times this season. Some guys do, some guys don't. Sometimes it works to not take tires. Sometimes you just end up a sitting duck, and the guys who did take tires could run you down. It's a risky move no matter what you do. So you see Jesse, he's got his lead up to 6.2 seconds over David Macedo. So we'll see what he's able to do. David in second. Kyle Macedo is all the way up into third with all this going on. So good driving by Kyle to put himself in this position. He's had a good race so far, other than a few laps where he seemed a little loose, and Pedro was kind of hounding him there for a while. You see him overshoot that corner just a little bit, and Alex is going to get right back on him there. You see Doherty in the background. Kyle is still not going to pit. Doherty is not going to pit. Jesse did pit, so he's in the pits right now. So that means David Macedo is going to inherit the lead of the race. We've said that quite a few times this season because David stays out for a long time, and he's always up towards the front. So at some point in probably almost every single race of the season, he has inherited the lead of the race. Even if he wasn't eventually the winner, he's led at some point because he's always towards the front, and he always pits really late in the pit window. So now he's in the lead. You see Kyle still dealing with Alex. These guys racing close, even though it's not for position. You see Alex just send it over the curbing there, and we see a penalty pop up for Ken North. Looks like a drive-through penalty, 30 seconds. Oh, that's a real bummer. That's gonna definitely hurt his race. And another one just popped up for Jesse Albert. Oh my gosh, that is huge. Jesse was in the hunt for the lead of the race, but that is all but going to ruin his race because a 30-second drive-through is going to put him well behind these guys. So that right there is a big thing for Jon Snow, because John, really the only one it looked like he had to worry about was Jesse. Jesse and David, those two. And another penalty just popped up for Joe Marsiglia. Same thing. You see these guys coming out of the pits, and they're just not able to keep it under the limit in there. So 3 drivers with a 30-second penalty at the same time. That's something we haven't seen this season. So that's going to be disappointing for those guys. Meanwhile, you see Doherty right in front of Moda, who's right, and Doherty's right behind Eric Tong. So these guys, let's see who's in what position here, though. Doherty is being shown in 3rd. Tong is being shown in 9th, but this might adjust itself. Let's see. Moda is still being shown in 10th. So Doherty's in 3rd. Kyle Macedo is still out on the track in front of these guys. David Macedo still leading the race, but we know Jon Snow, who's being shown in 4th place. That's how dominant he was. Even after pitting, and some of these other guys haven't pitted yet, John is all the way back up into 4th place. You see David not pitting again. Let's see about Kyle. Is he going to pit? You see Joe Marsiglia going into the pits right there. You see Kyle off the track a little bit there. Mike Doherty is going to pit, so here comes Mike. So Jon Snow did not take tires. We're being told he didn't take tires, which we've seen him do before, so that's not that surprising. He had a pretty good lead, so that's going to put him even further out in the lead once these guys do pit. So we'll see how that strategy works out for all these guys. Meanwhile, Pedro's being shown in 5th place right now in front of Andre Marchishin, but only by a little bit. See Pedro a little bit slow through there. Andre gets right up on him. Andre moving around, but there doesn't have a move on him there, so. Alright, let's get back to the leader here. David Macedo still leading the race. Let's see if he pits this time around. He does not. So 24 laps into the race, he still hasn't found the pit lane. He is going to stretch this thing as far as he can. He normally does. This is not anything new. You see Kyle going into the pits now. So Kyle, running in second currently, is going into the pits. And that is going to allow John Snow, who is followed by Jesse Albert, but we know Jesse had that 30-second drive-through, so he is not currently battling with John Snow. But we do know that Jesse is on fresh tires, so that is going to make him faster than John Snow, so we'll see how that works out. So John is going to take second. Kyle's still in the pits. David's still out on the track in the lead. 25 laps in the books. He's on the 26th lap. See what he's able to do here. We know we're running 40 laps here tonight. I don't know if I said that earlier in the race. I meant to. We're running 40 laps tonight. So we've got about 15 laps to go. David still hasn't pitted. Let's see if he does this time around. And he's going to. So he is going to pit. We would assume he's not going to take tires. Just historically speaking, he usually, well, I don't want to say usually, but a lot of times he has not taken tires to get track position. So if that's the case, where is he going to come out with in relation to where John Snow is? Because John pitted much earlier, and he is being bothered by Jesse Albert, who is very fast right now. So these two are coming around. David's still in the pits. So John is going to take the lead of the race back. But you see David coming out of the pits. He's not going to be far behind. Actually, he is going to be in front of John Snow. So that long stint that he did on those original tires actually worked out, and he did not take tires either. So now you've got two drivers in the front with old tires, both very consistent drivers, very fast, and these guys are battling for the championship right here. This is for the whole thing. They're both in the top three. John was currently running in third. David was our championship leader, and Mike Doherty was in second. Doherty's currently being shown in fourth place, but if either one of these guys can win the race, they will secure the championship. So this battle will be very interesting to watch. You see him coming up on Evan Miller there. Now John has had more pace throughout the course of the race than David has. And David has obviously ran a fantastic race, because here he is in the lead with 14 laps to go, about to be 13. But can he outpace John long enough to win the race, win the championship, bring the whole thing home? This is going to be fun to watch. Take a look back through the pack to see if there's any other close battles going on. Waiting on some times to pop up for some of these guys. Everybody is fairly spread out right now. Looks like everybody's pretty spread out. This is where the action is at. This is for the championship. This is the 8th race of the season. It all comes down to this last race. You know, when you draw these things up, when you make the schedule for a championship, this is the kind of scenario that you hope will play out. Often is not the case. Often there's no drama in the last race or two because somebody is pulled so far ahead. But these guys have all been so good that they've knocked each other off race after race and kept the points close. So here we are with a battle to the end. take a look on board with John. See how much he is or isn't fighting with these older tires. Looks pretty stable through there. You can hear him kind of babying the throttle coming out of that chicane, but nice and smooth. Not a lot of jerking of the wheel back and forth or anything like that. Seems pretty steady. You see him close in on David coming into this turn here. Whoa, David gets a little loose there, almost loses the car, ends up in the sand, and John is going to pull alongside him. Coming down the long straight here, John is able to take the position and take the lead of the race. See him hit the curb a little bit there. Both of them mostly avoid the curbs there. Wow, that is an amazing turn of events right there. David just makes the smallest mistake. You see the car try to step out just a little bit. Let's go back and look at that one more time. It looked like, let's see it from David's perspective. It looked like the car just got a little loose coming through this next turn right here. Yeah, the car just the back end tried to come around on him right there. He's on these older tires. Got in the sand, lost a considerable amount of speed, and John's there to pounce and able to take the lead. So now, you see David, he's fighting with his tires a little bit more, looks like, than John was, just through what we've seen the last few turns here. Seems like he's having a little bit harder of a time with his tires. Could be a setup thing, could be tire pressures, could be anything that's giving him a little bit more of a fit. Could just be driving style. Just a little bit more trouble for him than what there is for John Snow, who seems pretty. Let's take a look back on board with John and see how he looks in the onboard camera here. Really smooth through there. Yeah, see, he's just not fighting with the car. Even though he's on tires that have 28, 29 laps on them, he's still nice and smooth and steady. He's not battling with them. Doesn't seem like he's struggling for grip as much. Maybe a tuning setting in the rear end is what's causing David to fight with the rear end trying to come around. You know, these cars, there's so many different things you can tweak and tune. And John, his car has been set up so nice throughout the season. There's certain tracks where he is just absolutely dominated because he's a really consistent driver. So if he gets a great setup, like he had at Laguna Seca, for example, he walked away with that race. Nobody was even close to him for most of that race. He really ran away with it without much hassle. So you see John has pulled the gap up to 1.5 seconds. And now John is catching up to Evan Miller here. Evan being shown in 9th place. You see him getting the blue flag there. He's going to let John go. Evan's going to let David go also. Good driving by Evan there to let these guys get by. And then Evan lets Jesse go by, but I don't think he realized that was for position. Jesse following the leaders here. Let's take another look at that. Evan is just in go on by me mode because the leaders just caught him. Jesse catches up to him and he just lets him go, but that's actually for position. That's going to give Jesse 9th place. And Evan, who's ran a great race, probably just realized what happened. See if he can get it back. Jesse's been really fast, but Evan's had a really good race, so we'll see what happens there. You see the lead up front is up to 1.52 seconds. So David just trying to hold on, hoping for a mistake. We did see John have a pretty big mistake in the first chicane during one of the practice races. That's probably why he has chosen to snake his way through the first chicane throughout this race, because that incident probably made him realize it's just not worth the gamble. You see Jesse sending it over the curb there. These guys really, and Evan goes around going through the chicane there. These guys cracked me up with how determined they are to jump those curbs, even though there's been so many incidents there. Although I will say, I think Jesse might be the only guy who has not had an incident right there. If he did, I don't remember it. But everybody else just about has wiped out there a few times. So David, 1.9 seconds now, so he's losing time to John. Not very fast, but he's losing time to him. Every lap he's losing a little bit. So John, at this point, he's got the championship in sight. He is in the lead of the final race. He is in third place in points. I believe this would be enough to give him. I didn't do the math. I'm sorry. I didn't prepare as much maybe as I should have before this race. But I believe if he wins, he will have enough points to solidify the championship. Meanwhile, Jesse Albert all over David Macedo. He's on much, much newer tires. You see David is just going to let him go, looks like. Jesse's showing a lot of pace right now on those newer tires, but not racing these guys for position. So we got Kyle Macedo is still in third place. So Kyle didn't take tires, which is not something we've seen him do. I don't know if he's done that all season. He's a very fast driver, but we haven't seen him stretch one set of tires very often. He's a little more of this, we'll call them the speed types. Jay Vroman, Kyle Macedo, Jesse Albert. These guys seem to always take tires because they want to be as fast as possible while they're on the track. So Kyle, maybe taking a note out of his brother's playbook, decides not to take tires, and it's working out for him. He's all the way up into third place. He's in front of Mike Doherty. Doherty, running in fourth, has got a gap to, quite a gap to Andre Marchishin. Something must have happened to Andre. He's about 8 seconds behind Mike Doherty. Don't know what happened there. And then Pedro is 9 seconds behind him. So these guys are all spaced out back here. You see Moda. He is way behind Pedro. These guys, I think he's a lap behind Pedro, I believe. If he's not a lap, he's quite a ways behind, because these guys are pretty spaced out. Let's get a look back at the front. So John Snow has pulled the gap to David up to 5.1 seconds. So he is marching away with the race on those older tires. They've now got 32 laps on them. We've got about 8 laps to go till we crown a champion here. So this has been a really incredible performance by, all these guys. I mean, they've all done so well all season long. John really has come on strong the second half of the season. He's had a few moments like the Laguna Seca race where he just absolutely dominated. It seemed like once he figured that track out, he had a level of speed there that nobody else could even come close to. And that track gave a lot of people a hard time for some reason. I mean, I shouldn't say for some reason. It's a very difficult track, but John was just very dominant there, and he really, if you go back and watch the race at Laguna Seca, we barely showed him during the recording because he was so far out in front there was nothing to see. He was on his own all the race long, just all by himself out front, and really dominated the entire time. You see Jesse catch air coming over the curbing there. he is all over Jon Snow right now. So these guys are racing close. We've seen so much close racing by everybody in this group, and we've had a few incidents, but compared to what you normally see in sim racing, we have had such a clean league. Everybody has done such a great job keeping it clean, giving each other space, being fair about it. Really impressed with how good of a job these guys have done. You see how big the gap is. This is the only other close battle on the track. Eric Tong is 2.4 seconds behind Alex Moda. That's the only even remotely close battle, is Eric behind Alex Moda. Moda currently running in 7th. Eric running in 8th. So we'll keep an eye on these guys towards the finish of the race here. We've got about 6 laps to go. You see Jesse's really racing hard. I mean, I'm sure he's just having fun right now because he's not really in the hunt for... he's 10 seconds behind the guy in front of him, which is Eric. So he's not really in the hunt with a few laps left to catch Eric, I don't believe. Although, you never know. I mean, these guys have done some pretty incredible things. You see Eric way up ahead up there. That's who Jesse is trying to run down. So he is in the hunt for 8th place. Trying to get past Jon Snow, but also not ruin the race for the leader. So it's a delicate situation. We trust these guys to do a good job of giving each other space, but race close. You know, we've had good close racing, clean racing, hard racing, very intense racing, sometimes a little more intense than maybe what we would like. But you see Jesse getting right up on him there coming through that corner. He's just got better tires. He's got more speed through these sweeping turns, more grip. It's going to help him get better exit speed. You see him all over John, just right on him. And you got to think at some point, John's got a big lead. He's just going to let him go. And it looks like that's what he's doing right now. Just let him go. He's not racing him for anything, so no reason to hold him back any longer. Jesse, meanwhile, is trying to catch the guy in front of him. He's got 5 laps to make up 2.7 seconds. So he has brought the gap way down. So Eric is right here, coming into the final chicane, and Jesse is coming down to the final chicane. Excuse me, he's 8.6 seconds behind. I had that wrong. Eric Tong is 2.7 seconds behind Alex Moda. That's what I was looking at. So Eric is still within reach of Moda. And then Albert over 8 seconds behind Tong. So you see more damage on the front of that Porsche there. I'm not sure. I don't know if it was even that damaged before, so I don't know if Moda had another off the track or what happened, but he's not had the race he wanted. He's still doing pretty good to be in 7th right now, middle of the pack, considering he ended up in the wall coming through the first chicane early in the race. But of course, that's not what he was hoping for. He was probably hoping for a top 3 finish because he was pretty fast here. So, all right, let's check back with the leader, Jon Snow, all by himself now. He's still behind Jesse, but those guys have nothing for each other. So, and we know John doesn't have the speed that Jesse does right now. So, John just running his race, trying to bring the championship home. If he does indeed win the race, we are going to have to check the points and make sure that he actually did win the championship, because like I said, I didn't do the exact math there's a ton of scenarios that could have played out depending on who finished where, and I quite simply just didn't have the time to sit down and figure out each scenario and what would happen. So once the race is over, we'll have the results and we'll be able to figure it out then. So we look at John. He's got 3 laps to go. 3 laps to go. Just got to bring it home now. David is 5 seconds behind him, so he got up to about a 5-second lead, and then it's kind of leveled off. John maybe just conserving at this point, trying not to make a mistake. You don't want to blow a race that can lead to a championship when you have a considerable gap. You see John actually going over the bumper there on one of the last laps of the race while he's in the lead for the championship. A little bit ballsy there, but okay. Well, we like it. We like to see these guys push it a little bit. They push it a lot, and they do a lot on the track. So we see David's got it down to 4.9 seconds, but it's still a pretty good gap. Meanwhile, back here, Andre has caught up to Kyle Macedo. So this would be, wait a minute. Mike Doherty is in 3rd place now. So Kyle made some kind of mistake. I don't know when it was. I don't know how far back we'd have to go, so we're not going to go back and try to find it. But something happened because Kyle was running in 3rd place. Now he's in 4th place, and he's under the gun by Andre. We know that Kyle is on those old tires, which he's kind of a sitting duck because Andre isn't. Andre is on much fresher tires, and he's caught up to him. There's only 2 laps left in the race. This will be very interesting to see what happens here. The battle for 4th place. You see Kyle get on the curve a little bit there. Just trying to hold on to it. 2 more laps to go. See, Jesse's got the gap to Eric Tong all the way down to 3.6 seconds. So he is gaining on him quickly. Here you see Andre dive to the outside through the first chicane. Nothing doing there. Through the second chicane. Meanwhile, David Macedo has the lead cut down to 4 seconds. Behind John Snow up there. So whatever happened to all these guys, Mike Doherty is now in 3rd place. And it's not surprising that he would find his way up to the podium if he can finish in 3rd. He's been in the front the whole season long. He's in the hunt for the championship as well as the 2 guys in front of him. But as long as these guys can hold on, it looks like... Oh, and Andre ends up off the track. That's going to decide that battle. Looks like Kyle is going to hold on to 4th place. So meanwhile, here we are with John Snow. Last lap of the race. You see David behind him. John seems to have eased his pace a little bit, just trying to make it to the finish line, keep everything between the lines, no mistakes. David, no doubt, pushing as hard as he can. But this is it right here. They're coming down to the final chicane. You see up ahead, Jesse has caught up to Eric Tong. But we're going to watch the champion claim the title right here. John coming through the final chicane, making his way down the front stretch. He's going to take the checkered flag, and he is going to, I believe, be our champion. Let's wait till the race is over. So we got him in first, David Macedo in second. Mike Doherty, you see how far behind he was. He's just getting to the final chicane. He's going to finish in third. Kyle Macedo loses it through the final chicane, but he's lucky to have a big enough gap on Andre that he's still going to be able to finish fourth. Andre is going to bring home fifth place. Pedro holding on to sixth place. That's Joe Marsiglia behind him, but that's not for position. So Pedro coming in sixth here. He's sixth place in the championship, and he's going to come in sixth place in this race. Good finish by him, as always. Alex Mota, quite a ways back. He is in seventh. Jesse Albert did end up getting Eric Tong for eighth place. So Jesse got past the leaders and went and took that position from Eric in the last couple of laps of the race. So there's Moda crossing the line in seventh. Here comes Jesse crossing the line in eighth. Eric Tong coming down. You see Evan Miller just kind of hanging on. So Eric's going to finish ninth, and that is going to be the end of our race. So 40 laps, really intense race. Let's look at the points. Before we do anything else, let's look at the points. So after the race, Jon Snow finishes in first. He is first in the championship by 1 point. He beat David Macedo for the championship 128 points to 127 points. So that pass that he made on David decided the whole thing. If John would have finished anywhere else, he wouldn't have beaten David. So David, just that close. Mike Doherty finishes third in the championship with 122 points. Andre finishes fourth with 101. Jay Vroman finishes fifth with 61. Pedro Perez finishes sixth with 47 points. Alex Mota, who wasn't here the entire season, finishes seventh with 42 points. Kyle Macedo finishes eighth with 40 points. Joe Marsiglia finishes ninth with 36 points. Jesse Albert, who was also not with us the entire season, finishes 10th with 33 points. I don't think Joe Marsiglia was with us the entire season either, so impressive by Joe and Jesse to be up that high. Alex Mota really wasn't with us the whole season, and he finished all the way up in 7th. Great job by him. Eric Tong comes in 11th with 20 points. Mark Pedersen in 12th with 18 points. Evan Miller in 13th with 8 points. And then Robert Everett and Craig Everett are behind him. So Jon Snow takes home the championship after what was a great season of racing by all these guys. We are going to go back and take a look at the beginning of the race, as we always do. And the beginning of the race, let's see here. Who do we want to ride along with? Let's see. We're going to start with Mike Doherty. Start with Mike, and then we might jump to Jesse, because Jesse starts in 5th, and I think he ends up 3rd. So here these guys are coming down the front stretch, waiting for that green flag. There's the green flag, and off they go. Now Doherty has historically had rough starts. He's a little bit tight in the first lap or so of the race, but then after that, when he settles in, he's very fast. So we see Mike holding his position. You see Mota and Marchishian both off the track there in the second turn. That's going to let these guys take advantage. You see Jesse gets the inside on Marchishian through this sweeping right-hander here. And now Doherty's drag racing Marchician down the stretch, coming into the first chicane. But he is going to end up settling in behind Andre after that first chicane. See Kyle Macedo all over the back of Mike Doherty. Makes a move down the left side. He is going to get off the track. Right there, you see him coming back onto the track. He's going to fall back a little bit though. So you see Jesse, he started in 5th. He's all the way up to 3rd, and he's right on the leaders. These guys all ran a really good race. Really fun to watch. Great season by everybody. Really proud of what we've got here so far. This is only our first season. It's the first 8 points races with this group of guys, and I couldn't have asked for anything better. These guys have done a fantastic job. So we're going to start season 2 in January. Congratulations to the winners of the races throughout the season, including the practice races. I know they don't count for points, but a win is a win, especially when you're racing against competition this good. Great racing by those guys to compete all year long. And congrats to John Snow for finishing 1st, David Macedo with a great season finishing 2nd, and Mike Doherty with another great season finishing 3rd in the points. Great job by those guys. And we're going to have some races between now and the beginning of our championship. Our first championship race for season 2 is going to be January 22nd. So the week of the 22nd will be our first week of racing, practicing, practice races, and then the 22nd will be our first points race for season 2. So that's a little ways away, but we're going to have racing going on in between there. I'm not sure how much of that racing is going to make it onto YouTube. So sometime in early January, I will be getting back into the swing of things with these guys and uploading races with these guys. So that will happen, but it's just going to be something that we'll figure it out when we get there. But for sure, the points races are all going to be on YouTube. So see you guys next year. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed a great season of racing, and it looks like the sky is really the limit. We've got some new drivers who are really, really good. Some of the guys who have been with us from the very beginning are very, very good also. It's just a really great group of racers, and we can only imagine where we'll be next season with this same group of guys, and hopefully some new faces also. So thank you guys for watching. We'll see you all in January.